Hi guys, welcome to Confetti Industry Week. We hope that you've all had a good few days of talks already. Your talk today is going to be with one Jonathan Mortimer, who is an animation lecturer, a concept writer and a storyboard artist, so we're very lucky to have him. Please use the link in the chat function to ask questions and we'll aim to answer all of these, as many of these as we can after the talk. We hope you all enjoy the session, and a massive thank you to Jonathan for taking the time to join us today at our 15th Confetti Industry Week. Don't forget that you can still book onto up-and-coming events by going to Confetti, industryweek.confetti.ac.uk as part of Industry Week. We're running a competition where you can win some cool prizes. All you have to do is tag us on Twitter or Instagram using hashtag.
Hi guys, very nice to meet you all. My name is Jonathan Mortimer. Thank you very much for having me, and I'm going to share my screen with you and have a little chat, and I'm going to answer questions at the end. Apologies for being late, entirely my fault, so don't blame anybody else, it's all on me, so I'll take all the blame for that one, don't you worry guys. So let's get started and let's share the screen. So hopefully, if everything's going according to plan, you should be met with a Word document for now. Can everyone see that? Is that okay? Or am I just talking to myself? So hopefully...
You can see that, Jonathan, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So what I'm going to explain later on, I see myself as a dual practitioner. So I work both as a lecturer part-time, and I still work as a freelancer on different projects. So the lecturer in me still wants to say, okay, here's how we're going to begin this chat and how we're going to circle back to talk about it. And this might help you when it comes to you answering your questions. So these are my start and finishing points. So what would I like you to get out of this session? Ideally, I want you to be informed, but also inspired, hopefully. If not, that's not a problem, but that's certainly a goal. And that's what I see myself when I work as a lecturer. I see my primary goals is to inform and to inspire you guys to go off and do more, wherever that may be. I need you, or I'd like you to be accountable for education, and we'll come back to that and talk about what you can do to make yourself accountable to get the most out of your education. Of course, start being a professional now. What can you do to make sure that you're getting to good practices while you're still at college or university and you're still going through your education, but making yourself more employable when you come out at the end? Motivation and mindset. It's really important to be motivated, have a proactive and a positive mindset. And especially with everything that's been going on, we could all use a bit of positivity and a bit of motivation to keep us all going. So I'll show you some stuff and little tricks that I do to help get me going. And of course, if you want me to come back and talk again, I will. But ultimately, it comes down to yourselves of what you'd like to do. And what do you want to get out of this session? And what I mean by that is circle back to point 2, be accountable for your own education. Okay. Anyway, so that's how we're going to start off with. Let's get on to the nitty gritty and actually looking at the presentation slide. So hopefully, if everything's going according to plan, you should see the Adobe Acrobat presentation. And it's me, Jonathan Mortimer. I'm just going to be a guest speaker for you guys today. I try to be as informative, but also as entertaining as possible because, well, why the hell not? We're working in animation. It should be entertaining and we should be slightly entertained. So big questions that I'm sure you guys are wanting to know or want to ask me is, what do I do? Nice logical question. Why am I talking to you? So I've been teaching animation since 2010, and that's both in the college sector as well as in the university sector. Around about the same time, I've been working as a storyboard artist and a 2D animator. And the last couple of years, I've been developing new ideas to kind of pitch it to Amazon, Netflix to try and get TV shows, animated features made. I also work with the Move Summit. So for the last 3 or 4 years, I've been an education consultant on that. I can give you details of that. That's not a problem. But I basically focus in on the student day or the graduates day, which is one of the 3 days that the Move Summit's made up of. And for the last 2 years, I've been working with Anima Dojo as the education consultant in that too. So lots of different jobs. It keeps me busy, keeps me entertained, but it all comes under the banner of animation and what that means for myself. Another good question that I'm sure a lot of students will just want to know. So let's just get straight off and straight into it. Who have I worked for? Nice logical question. So I've had the pleasure of working for a couple of Disney TV contracts. So one was working for Disney TV and Hasbro for Transformers: The Last Night toy commercials. I found myself in a couple of years principally doing a lot of toy commercials and doing storyboards for them, which I didn't actually plan to. I just kind of fell into it, and I enjoyed it so much. I just tried to keep going as much as possible. So I worked for Disney TV a couple times, Disney and Tesco's, Roald Dahl. I was actually involved in a pitch for one of their TV series that unfortunately didn't go anywhere, but we'll come back to that, not a problem. Land Rover. I've helped a couple of studios do pitches. I've done some background character animation for a short film called A Tissue, in which the character sneezed, and each time it sneezed, it changed to a different medium. So it changed from stop frame to 3D to 2D and back again. A couple of things for CDI TV and the Jolly Hog, which I don't think I haven't actually seen the commercials up in Scotland, but I think there's probably been advertised a bit more down in England. So if you have seen them, fantastic. And one I haven't put in there was I did the toy commercials for uh, Disney TV, and it was for Toy Story 4, which just by chance I went to see Toy Story 4 because I'm a big kid with my wife, and just if you went to see it in the cinema before all this, um, just before the movie comes out, or basically before the movie's shown, there's the toy commercial. So I had no idea that was going to happen. So I was sitting with my wife, eating my popcorn, and we both just screamed, going, "Ah, we've seen that! It's cool!" We must have looked like two idiots because it was big cinema. Two kind of silhouettes of people jumping up and down uh, when it's just a toy commercial. But yeah, that was kind of a nice thing. No one told me about it, so it was a lovely surprise. um, so yeah, like how might that go about? Well, the turnaround for the storyboards I do is essentially I've got to get a first draft done and dusted in 12 hours. Most often not quicker than that. So within like 5 working days, there'd be a lot of going back and forth, but you're probably talking from like 6 to 10 hours since I get a phone call, the first draft has to be in. I get the script, I get some notes, I have to speak to the director, and I have to make it work. Essentially, that's my job. It's easier and cheaper to pay me as a storyboard artist to come in and figure out any issues and problems and challenges that may be faced while on set, instead of being on set and it costs thousands per hour with a huge crew or even a smaller crew. It's just wasting time. So I'm paid to work with the director to figure out as much as possible so when we get to set, hopefully the majority of answers and questions have popped up and dealt with. Don't get me wrong, the toy commercials I've worked on have all been stop motion related, so they have a bit more of a need to do for storyboards to actually be done. I'm not to say that's not to say storyboards aren't important in any other medium, but the benefit of working in stop motion is they really want to have as much storyboards, as much detail as possible. That might change when you get on set. You might have a director of photography that he or she will have a look at the set and decide to change the perspective or two. But yeah, so this is really how Transformers Saving Earth's Energy actually came about from like the initial script into the storyboard stage. So first draft. So these are nice and quick. It's just kind of stuff I'm sure that Nick and Jack have already talked to you guys about in terms of looking into your frame setup, looking into layout, looking into rule of thirds, line of action. What do you want to tell? So you essentially have to tell the story silently, almost like an old black and white movie. What's going to happen, and how do you help, you know, tell the story with the body as much as possible? These are really quick, so a rule of thumb for thumbnails I try and use is I only spend like 2, if not 3 seconds per panel because I've got to go quickly. Not only do I don't have just this contract or a contract at a time, I've got several things going, so I have to kind of divide my time and time manage myself appropriately to make sure that I hit all the targets, I get everything done that I need to get done, and ultimately I personally find most time consuming for storyboards is feedback. It's essential, it's needed, but I have to send it in and I just have to wait because I don't know what they're going to say. They might hate it and I have to go back and redraw it. Sometimes it happens. They might love it and go, perfect, keep going. That doesn't happen that often, or certainly not for me. um, so sending off for feedback, for changes and turnaround. So it's 5 working days. So within the first, as I said, within the first day, 8 hours or so, I have to have a first draft to send back. So of the 5 working days, you're probably talking 2 days we're just waiting to hear back for feedback. More than anything else, it is what it is. It's my responsibility as a professional to have a first draft and a plan B within 12 hours of accepting the brief. Because if I just present one option and go, well, this is it, and they don't like it, then what are we going to do? So I try and have at least a plan B or idea saying, well, I think we could do this, but I've got another notion of, well, this could also work. And that's what's being a professional. So you don't just have one solution. You're paid to come up with at least one solution and hopefully a plan B to make it work. That plan B might be cheaper, it might look better, it might look more dynamic. That's basically the director and the producer's job. But my job as a storyboard artist is to provide them as much information and to give them ideas of what we could do to make it, to improve it, make it cheaper, whatever the case may be. It changes depending on who you're working with. Sets and models being prepared and filming begins. So basically, as I'm getting the script, the models and the sets have been built. So we have to, when I say 5 days, we have 5 days. There's no more. It doesn't continue past that. It's I've got to get this done as quickly as possible. I'm working with the studio to contact the client. In this case, it was a representative from Disney TV. We were going back and forth because an aspect that you may or may not appreciate, I certainly didn't until I started doing the job, is you've got to be careful what you do with these toys because you can't demonstrate or show these toys doing anything that a child can't go to the toy store, buy it, and do with it, within reason. If they're going to jump around and be alive, that's fine. That's almost to be expected. But the toy itself can't do anything that you wouldn't allow another toy to do because that's false advertising. So there's certain advertising and professional standards that have to be applied. Uh, but once again, I have no idea if this is getting a bit too nitty gritty, but you guys can tell me. This is your time. So this is the final board. So you could probably see it's quite a significant change from the rough drafts that take seconds to do, but I need to get it done quickly before I go into the final thing. So this is kind of the standard, if not better, that they're trying to look for your final submission. And there's still going to be changes or something that's going to be done. That's just it. So you have to have a wee think about, okay, what are you going to do for your storyboards? If I'm quite short in time, I just stay monotoned, I go black and white. If I've got a bit more time to work with, and then sometimes I like to kind of play around with a bit of color. But it's not to say that if you're using monotone storyboards that you can't use color. I like to use a little red dot to help simulate that, like it's recording, it's live, we're going on. But from that, this is kind of what you want to get to, if not better. Ideally, as I said, going back to point one, I want to inform and inspire. If you can do better, fantastic, do better. But ideally, you want to get your storyboards, your work up to as close to a professional standard as possible while you're still learning. Why not? This one's quite fun. So regardless if you work in 2D, 3D, or storyboards, you'll be expected as a professional once again to match styles. So a couple of these panels are not done by me; they're done by a different artist, and I just have to make it work. But that's it. That's part of the craft. That's part of the style. So I don't know. Well, we can maybe do it later on. Guess what? Guess what panels are done by me, and guess what panels are done by the original artist. But that's it. So regardless if you're working in 2D, 3D, we're working in collaboration. It's not me against them or anyone else. And this goes into 2D animation. You want to make sure that everything fits in together. It's a team effort. You've heard the, teamwork makes the dream work. This is it. You're hoping to get into a creative industry in which we all work together. We all have a common goal to make a short film, to make a series, to make a whatever. And you don't want to look for your storyboards or look for the animation and go, that seems nice, that seems pretty, dodge. It's got to be a level of consistency. So yeah, there's an expectation that you will have to match as much as possible the styles of your peers and other colleagues, which is fun. It doesn't, it takes time. And the more you do it, and the more you practice, the more you draw, the better you get at it. There are some challenging styles, or there might be a style that you do find challenging. That's great. It's not about if I have time, I'm gonna try and circle back to this and talk about it in more detail. But just because you encounter a problem doesn't make that an issue. It's trying to turn a negative experience or a negative account into a proactive or a positive change, or an opportunity more than anything else. So if you find a particular style hard to draw more. That's good. That's a wall for you to try and jump over and overcome. If you just kind of go, oh, can't do it, that's it, I'm done. All right, fine. that's not really how being a professional works. So going back to what I mentioned before is you can start being a professional now. That comes to how do you format emails to your lecturers. I'll speak to your lecturers later to find out if anyone's been a bit cheeky by emails, but are you formatting yourself and presenting yourself professionally, both in presentations, emails, and your work and your commitment to work? The Jolly Hog, I really enjoy the Jolly Hog. The Jolly Hog is a sausage company, and I worked with Jim Parkinson, who is a stock frame animator from Aardman. I think he still works there back and forth. Lovely guy, and this was him being the director. So he went off and he provided me footage of the three owners, the three brothers, who were going to be pigs within the advert of the Jolly Hog. And he said, "What can you do to make that work?" So I took each character and tried to look into each mannerism that they adopted and try to put into each character. Now, for this, I kept it monotoned, as I mentioned before, to make sure that it was a quick turnaround. But to make it easier for both the animators and for the client to see, okay, what pigs who, I basically gave each character their own color. So green, blue, red. Okay, good to go. They gave a little remit, so they wanted the last brother not to do that much apart from just kind of mess around, build a was it a house of cards and this, that, and next. And that's fine. But the rest, I try to adopt the different mannerisms. So when the brother turns around, another one's kind of reminiscing. I try to think about the body language. I try to kind of capture as much of them as possible. So going back into like reference for animation storyboards is key. I will gladly make a fool of myself to try and capture a movement or something that I need to get on my storyboards or get in my animation or whatever. If you don't have that reference, then I find it exceptionally difficult, even now, to try and think. I can only do so much off the top of my head and just kind of sketch out to have an idea, but I will need reference to make it just better and breathe life into it, to get the mannerisms, the movement, and everything, and of course, the timing that I want. Not everything's, a complete success. So I did a short film when I was still at uni. It did some animation markets. It went internationally into different festivals. It won a couple of awards. It got honorable mentions by others. So one of my first experiences of working professionally was an Oscar winning animation studio came to me and went, "We love your short film. What might you do to develop it?" So that's what I did. This is, the title of my short film was called 43. And this was the development. So these are the storyboards of what can I do to develop the story, make it longer, make it better. And we did, I think it was something like 2 years worth of work trying to investigate it in different angles. Realistically, looking back at it now, essentially all the work that I did, I could have stuck all my storyboards together and I could have had a short film with all the storyboards and stuff and the different avenues and ventures we went to. But it was great because there's a lot of lessons that I learned from that experience that I've now taken on board and developed myself into different avenues, different careers. Such as one point that came up was in animation, the point of story. So if you're making a short film, you're making anything. What's the point of story? As in, well, what's the point? What's the point of me watching your piece? What am I going to get out of it? It doesn't have to be a moral, but what? Why should I watch your thing? Oh, I don't know. I never thought about it. Well, if you can't tell me that, then step aside. There'll be someone better to come and tell you and give you that elevator pitch. So something else that came up with my short film, the original short film, plus this one, I did it in my own time. I was still technically at uni, but this wasn't uni work. And what I mean by that distinction is quite simply, if you've got an idea for your short film, which I'm pretty hopeful that you all have got an idea, regardless if it's 30 seconds long, a minute long, go and do it. Why not? So like, when I came out of uni, I made all the mistakes that I'm going to tell you about, and like hopefully you're going to learn from. But the big thing is, if you've got an idea for a short film, go and do it. What you waiting on? If it's a short film, realistically, it's going to take 2-3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks of your life. Okay, do it. If you don't like, what do you need? What do you want? If you need money, we all need money. We all like money. Cool. But what do you need? Can you do it by yourself? Yes, but it'd be better if I had a team. Cool. Go and get a team. You've got people in your class. Ask people saying, "Do you want to make a short film with me?" But if you're going to collaborate and work together, make sure that it's just as attractive to them as it is to you. So unless you're going to pay somebody, then you're going to collaborate, and your idea is not going to be precious and your idea anymore. It's going to become something else. So if I've got money and I pay you, then you make my film. Nice, simple, to the point. If I want to work with you because I don't have money, or we've got we've got common goals and ideas, such as maybe I want to be a character animator, you want to be our environmental modeler. Cool. Let's both work and collaborate and make this our short film, because no one's getting paid. We're trying to make a portfolio piece. A big question that usually pops up when you go for interviews, internships, studios across, the UK and even internationally. Cool. Where's your collaboration work? Where's your teamwork? Oh, I never thought about that. Or the uni never made me do it. Okay, what did you do about it then? What do you mean? Say, well, you're only at uni. Well, I know it's different now with the crazy lockdown and everything else, but yeah, like what you're doing in your own time to enhance it. Anyway, we'll come back to it. I'll keep going. So I have worked on other projects, and I found myself, even though I'm not a character designer, if you're working in a studio or working on a project, you might get asked, hey, do you any ideas for these character designs? And that's an opportunity for you to step up and go, yeah, I've never done it before, but I'll give it a go. You got to learn. You got to learn by doing. And if someone in the studio is asking you to do it, then they're hopefully giving you an opportunity or seeing potential in you to rise up. So if you do get an internship or you do get an opportunity, it's all about waiting and seizing opportunities that come to you, or certainly that you see. So I've worked in different studios as production coordinator, as a story artist, wherever. But while there, I've had an opportunity to, oh, John, if I'm there for one job and I've made it clear in the interview that I've got secondary skills, I've got other stuff to bring to the table, then when an opportunity comes up, to go, oh, John, you can do storyboards, can't you? Yeah, I can do storyboards. Awesome, great. Come here. We've got 6 hours. We've got to turn this around. Awesome, I'll do it. Or in this case here, it's John. You got any ideas for these stories, like the characters? Yeah, I've got some ideas. Cool. Well, start off doing silhouettes. Think about how every silhouette is different. All right, cool. Right, okay, take these silhouettes, play around with them. If you've looked at Steve Silver is an American character animator. He does a great technique of using the 3-box rule. He has 3 boxes. It's basically a small box, medium box, and a large box, and you change the order of them, and it gives you a different silhouette and different character. The box doesn't have to be a box. It can be any shape you want, but if you imagine putting a big box on top, you've got a big, intelligent, smart character with a teeny weeny body. If you want to try and give the impression of a big hulking guy or a big hulking character, right? You give it the big box in the upper body, medium box for the legs, and maybe a tiny little box for the heads. So you can play around with these silhouettes quite quickly and easily, and that's what happened here. So once I had the silhouette, I then took the silhouette and drew on top. Nothing's wrong. It's not a problem. So it's not a question of oh, I can't do this because no, just do it. Shut up and just do it. Sit down, sketch, draw. What can you do to develop and change these characters and enhance them? So that's exactly what we were doing here. So if you do get an opportunity, try it. And once again, there's plenty of stuff that we went into looking into silhouettes, but I find silhouettes exceptionally I wouldn't say easy, but I find it easier to. I'm not a character animator or a character artist. I'm technically a 2D character animator and storyboard artist. But I have done examples of doing character design. Don't get me wrong, I do something and I pass it on to someone who's far better at character design and will enhance and work with it. But I will still collaborate and give my opinion, because you never know what your opinion or idea might come to. It might inspire another member of the team to go, I like that, I'm going to take that, I'm going to expand it, I'm going to do something with it. So this is all about being a collaborator and being collaborating with your team to make the most out of it. And of course, we're looking into like head heights. This was going to be stop motion, so we had to do kind of quick little sketches. Okay, how are we going to actually build these characters? And looking into like proportions and playing around with it, because yeah, regardless if you're going to rig a character in 3D or if you're going to rig a character for stop motion, or even 2D if you want to go for that kind of look, cool. Then at some point in the design process, you're going to figure out, okay, where's the pivot points? Where do you want this? Well, what do you want to animate? Are you going to have the hair moving? Are you going to have the dress moving? It's time, it's money, and whatever. Yeah. I find it a lot easier to do silhouettes, and then that way that it was just quick and easier for me at least. So for 43, that was a 2-minute 2D film. I did it myself over 3 weeks. I'm not saying that's how you should work, but I'm going to tell you the same thing that a couple of producers told me, which is, if you want to do a short film, then please excuse me, but go off and do it. There's nothing stopping you from making a short film. We can all say like, oh, I don't have the time, I don't have this. What do you need? Do you need feedback? Cool. Get feedback from myself, get feedback from Nikki, get feedback from Jackie, get feedback. You don't, you know, you don't need to rely on someone to show you how to do it. The best way of learning is just to, especially for a short film, if you've got an idea in your head, start off by sketching it, writing down a script, writing something down. A lot of my ideas that I do for series start off just as a post-it. I'm post-it man for a lot of people because I've got nothing but post-its in my home office. If I got an idea, if it's for work, wherever that may be, for the university, for the studio, write it down, stick it down. It's there. It's something that's quantifiable now that you can pick apart, add to it, and do something with it. But how I got started after uni was I did a short film while I was still technically at uni. And then with that, I looked into different competitions, I looked into different things. But what that came for me is because I did a short film and I entered it, I got a bit more noticed into, and a couple of offers, one of which was to work on developing 43, which unfortunately after 2 years never really went anywhere. But you could become negative and consumed with, oh, it's somebody else's fault or this happened, that happened. No, it's an opportunity. It didn't pan out. Great. What positives can come from that negative experience or what could be perceived as a negative experience? What proactive steps can you take to say, right, cool, this happened. What can I do to make sure it doesn't happen again? Or what lessons can I take from that? Because nobody wants to work for someone that's too negative and no one wants to hire somebody. That also meant that I got invited to the Children's BAFTAs because I used Toon Boom and Flash to actually make the piece. And because it won a couple of awards, myself and a couple of people were invited as animators to watch in the future. So I went to the Children's BAFTAs in London, I think it was 2013, and just had a grand old time. But the people I met at my table at BAFTAs have become friends for years later. How I started this presentation by showing you examples of who I worked with. I'm gonna come back to it, but the vast majority of these people or the companies and clients I worked with have been the result of going to the Children's BAFTAs, networking, meeting people, and going cool, and seizing the opportunity. I'm not letting people give me an opportunity because it's nothing to be gived. You've got to prove yourself and go cool. I really want to do this. You show your enthusiasm, you make it happen. But networking is a big part of being an animator. You need to know, okay, who do I need to go and speak to? Are you going to be an animator? That's a good fundamental point more than anything else. What title, job, career, or position do you want to engage with? You don't have to be an animator to work in the animation industry. I know that sounds daft, it sounds weird, and I've spent years drilling that into, or trying to drill into students like, look, you don't have to be an animator to work in the animation industry. There's production coordinators, there's producers, there's a whole list, there's a plethora of opportunities and jobs for you. I found that one of my first experiences working in the animation industry was not being an animator, was working as a production coordinator because I was quite organized and I was quite good at time managing. That wasn't the dream, but that helped me get my first step into the studio and into industry, get some feedback and see what they do. It's really nice being in the studio environment. I have no idea what's going to happen after this, but that's neither here nor there. But being in the studio, especially as a production coordinator, I found it great because if a job came up, my job as a production coordinator was to look up, or look at student and graduate applications and try and highlight which ones were good, which ones were really strong, which ones just need a bit more work. And I passed it on to my supervisor. Now she sat down and talked me through, what her opinion was, and she highlighted the couple points of what could be better in someone else's portfolio. I took these lessons on board to strengthen my own portfolio. So you can actually see what other people are doing in the studio, even if it's not your job. Be inspired by it, and you go back and work it in your own time. So just because you're not necessarily doing the job you want at that time doesn't mean you can't be. So how do I get my contracts? Positive word of mouth. If I do a good job, then before you know it, the next job will usually come on. So I still, of course, apply for positions. I don't get them all. Big deal. I ask for feedback. I ask for, awesome, great. Thank you so much for giving me a reply, because they don't have to give you a reply. They can just kind of go, well, nothing. But if they've sent you an opportunity, or if they've given you the time to reply and say thank you, but in this time you've been unsuccessful, you reply instantly or quickly by saying thank you so much for getting back to me. Can I ask for feedback, or can I ask for what can I do to improve my application so I can apply again in the future? You'd be surprised the amount of people that do not do that, and that's a missed opportunity. It also shows strength of character. Are you a good guy? Are you not? What can you do to make it count? So all of these contacts I told you right at the start, most of this is actually just one friend. That's the one friend that I met down at BAFTAs. I'm not going to tell you all the stories about BAFTA, but never mind. That's neither here nor there. But from that, it's working with somebody, they recommend, you do a good job, regardless if they're a friend, do they know you well or not. If you do a good job, the work speaks for itself. Okay. What I found a huge, once again, opportunity and experience for me was in 2015. I went to CTN, that's based in California, and that's the Creative Talent Network. That was partially funded by Creative Scotland, in which they took several animators from Scotland, and took them to California, and it was to kind of highlight both to the local industry and as well as the people that went, that you can work internationally. It's not something in the water in California and so forth. So, a Scottish, an English, a British animator, a professional can go and work in Canada and these other places if you want to. But it was fantastic. Best way to think about CTN is like Comic Con for animators. Every studio you can think of is there. You've got Sony, you've got Disney, you've got Pixar, and you can get portfolio reviews. So I went and got a portfolio review by Pixar twice. You just stand in the queue and you wait. You get feedback. So I went once. They gave me feedback. It's, I think, a 2 or 3 a day event. So I went on day one, and I think day 2 or day 3, I came back and joined the queue again and said, "Look, I've made the changes that you recommended. What can you do?" Yeah, that experience probably best changed my life, or changed my prospects of what I could accomplish. I could work internationally. You can, if you want to go and pitch ideas, pitch yourself as an animator, an artist, or if you've got an idea for a TV series, what could you do to branch off and do something with it? So this is some photographs of me and the team. We went to DreamWorks. So that's DreamWorks down there. We went to parts of Disney. I like my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so I basically went, went off. And so this is Hickson Gracie, if anyone doesn't know him. He's a big man of the sport. He's got a studio in California. He's got a studio in LA. So I just kind of went AWOL for like a couple hours and went for a roll. I'm not saying like try and be professional if you can, of course, but I'm all about seizing opportunities and seizing the chance. That was a chance, and I thought, I'm going to take it. Why the hell not? So CTN, what did that mean to me? Well, it inspired a lot of things. It inspired the Move Summit. But essentially, the Move Summits that happened in 2018 was the result of me and some friends going to CTN and going, this is fantastic. How do we get this back into Scotland or back to the UK? Because it's not just for Scotland. It's it's a national film and animation event. So we have had people from Manchester and down in London come up to the event. When we're allowed to gather the people together. So we take over the Pleasance, which is a huge place in Edinburgh. There is Animation Basecamp. I'll send a link to your lectures, and if you're not familiar with that, but essentially it's an 8-week course with Sony, which is done with Sony Pictures in LA. Once for Farmers, which were in Glasgow, but they've now merged with a different company, and Glasgow Cali. But yeah, that's successful. Unfortunately, it hasn't done that much beyond that. There's the Animation Centrifuge, which was set up to actually help encourage to get animation professionals over to Scotland, but they've continued so that you can still, like, basically things have carried on evolving. I've kept working throughout the pandemic, staying with colleagues and friends. Being part of the animation or games industry has been adaptable. You can't just say, oh, I can't get to work, or I can't do this, can't do it. What's your plan B. What can you do to be adaptable, see a positive in it, and move forward? If not, then unfortunately, to be blunt, someone else will. So you've got to make sure what transferable skills can you do from your degree or from your education. Because I believe, and please, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong here, you guys are doing 3 years to get your degree in England. Well, in Scotland, we do 3 years to get a degree, but a fourth year is your honours year. And I only say that because there's always a tendency to kind of go, oh, I'll put off my portfolio or I'll put off something until next year. Oh. You could, if you wanted to, if I sent an email to Jackie or Nikki and said, look, I've got a job or an internship, but your students have to apply by tomorrow, then I'm pretty confident some of you would create some sort of portfolio in the next 24 hours to make it happen. So the only thing that's changed in that scenario is that opportunity hasn't presented itself to you yet. However, you could go off and make a first draft in a portfolio if you wanted to. But we'll come back to that if we have time. Comparison is the thief of joy. So this is once again to inspire you, this whole chat, this presentation. And of course, if you don't want me back, then you only have to hear it once. But from it, it's important to be inspired by peers and inspired by people working in the industry, but don't compare your work. Okay? Everyone's doing a different journey, everyone's had different experiences, and everyone's at a different point in their life and their career. So it's important to keep that in mind. So don't compare your work with someone else's and feel disheartened. Go, I'm not there yet. Cool. What can you do to be better? Or what can you do to improve your work? My advice: get feedback. Talk to as many people as possible that will give you feedback. Don't compare. Oh, so and so did this at 23 or 25 or whatever the case may be. It doesn't matter. Okay. The creative process in industry: success, rejection, disappointment. There's a danger of always thinking, oh, that person's always successful, they always get everything right. Not at all. Because when you look at it and say, well, here's success, here's rejection, disappointment, where does it all break down? There's so much there that you just don't see. In this gap here, you've got to evaluate what was successful and what wasn't. This is you essentially being creative. And it's all the extra stuff you don't see. So try and always think about it like an iceberg. We see the top of the iceberg and all the success and stuff that go right. It's all the other stuff, the education, the training, the working late, everything else that goes into it. The nights crying, going, I'm not going to do this, blah blah. I could tell you stories such as I missed a friend's stag do because I was working on a pitch. It happens. I'm not saying everyone does it. I'm just saying it did for me. The pitch wasn't even picked up. It happens. I was contacted on my honeymoon to work in a Disney contract. I couldn't do it, and I tried everything to try and make it work. I even spoke to my wife and I was like, "Look, can I make this work?" We were in Japan with a 8-hour time difference. I got a call to say, "We want you to do a Disney contract. Can you do it?" I was so eager to do it. I was trying to figure out, okay, can I take these wee pads that sit at the side of the bed when you're in a hotel room? Can I take that and can I sketch and can I photograph them and send them in? Would you accept that? And it's like, no, we really need something a bit more professional. So I tried, before I let that contract go to a friend and recommend it, I spoke to the client and said, what would you accept from me? I'm in Tokyo with a pen and a piece of paper, but I can get you some storyboards in the next couple of hours if you want. So yeah, takeaway, try and think about what can you do to seize this opportunity or opportunities as much as possible. Ultimately, it's up to you. Be sure about what you want to do. How can anyone be confident in you if you're not confident about yourself? Show and share your passion. Get feedback. Don't be precious about something going, it's mine, because, well, you're working on a collaboration as much as possible. You're going to collaborate with your team to build and create something. Just make sure it's someone trying to help. I could, go out now and I could throw a stone and hit a bunch of people that would be negative at me, to me, or my piece of work. Find someone that's going to be supportive, usually your lecturer, like Big Nicky, and say, look, what do you think? And I'm sure they'll give you advice, they'll give you feedback, they'll give you suggestions of what you could do. But it's just that, a suggestion. It's up to you to make that happen. Keep growing, keep learning. You only stop developing an artist when you die. I know it sounds very definite and so forth, but if just because you get into the industry to keep an industry, and hopefully this is your passion, then you go off on LinkedIn, you go off on Pinterest, you go off on other stuff, and you'll just be inspired. It should almost be like a tap with your creativity. That as long as you found your passion, then it's only you that are going to turn the tap round to kind of reduce the flow or anything else like that. So if you're an artist, then you only stop developing as an artist when you die. So the person that came to the college course or uni course at the start, year one, should be different from year three or year four or whatever the case may be. If not, then why not? You've all had the same experiences. What's happened? What's changed? Is this your passion? And I think realistically, there's a discussion to be had at some point on an individual level. Pardon me. Is what's a passion and what's a hobby? There's some things I treat as a hobby that I enjoy, but it's just for me. Nothing wrong with that. There's other things that I see as a passion, and I can't stop myself. I'll draw, I'll write, I'll do something. I'm quite well. I like to talk with my hands. I've got plenty of energy. I'll make that happen. Yeah. I just want to make that happen. I'll write down some notes. I've got. Oh, hopefully this doesn't fall apart. I've got nothing but notes and stuff that goes on. If I have an idea, I write it down. I keep a pad next to me. Don't be afraid to try. The best time to think about university is think about this is your time to try. What's the worst that can happen? You get a bad grade. Oh, excuse me, but fuck it. Like at most you get a percentage or you get a mark to say, right, okay, that didn't really answer the brief. Okay, cool. Why not? What can I do to improve it? It's best to try now when you're at college or university than try in the industry and you make a mistake and, well, you may not get paid for it or you might not get asked back. So this is the time to, try more than anything else. Figure out your style. What can you bring to any job? Even though I mentioned before that you'll be expected to draw in different styles if you're in 2D, 3D, or anything else. What's your style? How do you see the world? Make a portfolio and get out there. Follow the points above, and unfortunately, don't be a dick. Nobody, like the only people I know of that are like a bit dickish are those that are obscenely talented because they can get away with it, going, oh, Fred's a bit of a so-and-so, but you know what, he does fantastic work. So my advice to yourself and any other graduates, be kind, be always a student in terms of always willing to learn, be proactive, be eager to learn, be teachable. So a lot of these things you can always relate to a degree of sports science. What makes a professional athlete? Okay, be teachable, be on time. If you're not 5 minutes early, you're 5 minutes late. Coming soon, if you want it, there's an option for me to do the same portfolio startup workshop that I do with my own students. You don't have to, but it's there. The idea is to get students thinking about their portfolios, show real career options, and present themselves regardless of the level and year group. But before that, how am I doing for time, Nikki? Am I good? Am I bad? Am I
Really fine, Jonathan.
cool?
Thank you.
Sorry. So if we look at these points, because these are again my start and finishing points, and I promise I will shut up and let you guys ask questions or do whatever you want to do. But if I can show these points again. So, what would you like to get out of this session? Please keep in mind that Blues internships are still open until the 12th. So you have 2 days to get stuff together. And it's open, it says it's open from second year plus. So if you don't have a portfolio, get a portfolio. I think there's about 5, 6, or 7 internships going at Bluezoo, but you've kind of got to pick your path of, okay, what am I going to do, or what would I like to do? You can't just apply to all 7 and go, take me. I'll take any job going. No, what's your passion? What do you like? So have a think into that, guys. If we look at these same questions, but kind of expanded a little bit, but Nikki, please cut me off if I'm going above my time. To be informed and inspired. That's what I like you to be from this session, and hopefully you are, but you never know. I will tell you about my story so far, but my goals have changed several times from uni, and I'm glad for it. So I'm just enjoying the ride. Not everyone's the same. Some people have a very definite goal and you go off and do it. What I didn't tell you about CTN is I went and showed some of my stuff. I can't remember what it was. I had a portfolio, a physical portfolio that I took, and that's what I got feedback on. And I managed to get good feedback from Blue Sky, from Pixar, and it's like, I'm doing great. This is awesome, cool. I'll go back to Scotland and I'll do this and I'll do that. And I had a friend that I met in California during that week or 10 days there, and she said, "Oh, can I see your portfolio?" Yeah, of course. And I showed it to her, and she presented me with an opportunity, and I said, I'm not going to be funny. I'm not trying to be too harsh with you, but I'm going to give you an option. So, of course, cool. I'm all about feedback. You have two options, and this is directly at me. I can't remember what it was like this. I think it was something like your character work, your character design or something. It's okay. It's just okay. So what do you want to do? It's like, well, I really like doing storyboards and I really like doing this. And I'm like, well, go off and do storyboards. And what she meant by that, and she expanded upon it and said, look, you have an option. When someone gives you feedback and they look at your work, you have two options. Hopefully, through feedback, they'll say, this is good, this is actually better. So you might find that just because you want to be a character designer, you might be a better 2D artist or you might be a better storyboard artist. Hopefully that comes out in the storyboards. So she said to me, you're a far better storyboard artist than a character designer. Focus on that. If you really want to be a character artist, that's fine, but you're going to have to put in the work up to catch up with everything else. So it was an interesting thing because I didn't consider it before, but I wouldn't have experienced that unless I went to CTN or an event similar to that and someone gave me that feedback of saying, look, your stuff's okay at this section here, but this stuff's really nice. If you develop that further, you might be able to work for these big companies. If you stick to what you want to do, that's fine, but you're going to have to put in a lot more work in to catch up to where your other stuff are or to where we need you to be if you want to be to the quality and level that you need to be. That's fine. It's something to consider. Be accountable for your own education. As a professional, you never stop learning. Okay? Nobody wants to work or employ a negative person. Be proactive. What are you going to do to make yourself better, make yourself employable? Have you researched your career, local studios? Who do you want to work with? I'm not going to laugh at you if you say, I want to work for Disney. Awesome, great. Go and work for Disney. I wanted to work for Disney. I haven't worked for Disney Feature, but I've worked for Disney TV. That's a ticky boxy for me, right? Life goal done. Awesome, cool. But you can't expect your lecturers or somebody else to tell you, oh, this place here, they are looking for jobs, they're looking for people here. No, it's your education, your career, so you have to take ownership for it as much as possible, guys. Start being a professional now, from day one. If so, only you only have time if you make time. So I'm tired of people saying to me, especially during the pandemic, professionals, students, or otherwise, going, I don't have time. No, if you prioritize and you want time, you will make time for it. So let's just cut the BS right now. If you want it, you'll make it happen. Uh, work your butt off. Collaborate and work in teams where you can. If you can't do it at university, because I appreciate that not every module or class allows that to be an option, or if it's not practical, cool. Doesn't mean you can't do it in your own time. We're using Zoom, guys. If you're listening and watching this through Zoom, then guess what? You can do your own team meetings via Zoom or anything else. You got a short film, work in a team, go off and do it. What personal projects are you working on? So a couple questions that pop up. So this is used at different studios. The 3 o'clock question. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. You can't sleep. There's nothing wrong. What are you doing? It's up to you. Some might say it's unfair because some people use that as an indicator of what your passion is. If it's 3 o'clock in the morning, you can't sleep and you're doodling, you're a doodler. If you're writing, you're a writer. Doesn't always work out that way, but it's a good indicator to think about, is this truly your passion? Yes, no, maybe. 30 minutes. I have three, if not 4 jobs, maybe 15 different projects across studios and working at uni, as well as everything else, as well as having 2 kids. It's 30 minutes. I can dedicate each day 30 minutes to each project if I want to get everything, to make it chip away and make it happen. So can you. So time management is a big thing. Send professional emails and replies. If you send Nick an email, say, subject, use it, put it in. Dear Nick, what do you want? You type in what you want. You thank him, kind regards, your name. Even if he gives you back something you didn't expect or something that maybe, he doesn't answer the question that you want, whatever the case may be, email back, thank you so much for your time. Get into that habit. Ask for feedback as many times as you can. I say to my students, I'm not paid by the students and I'm not paid by the feedback per session. So that means is if you ask me 1,000 questions in a class or you ask me 1, I get paid the same. So ask me as many questions as you want. Motivation and mindset. Take 10 minutes. I'll send these links to Nick and Jackie. I've started saying this, especially this week, to my portfolio class and my 3D students. It takes 10 minutes. These are motivational videos and mindsets. And my wife's a GP, so she started to recommend something similar to her patients, because with what's going on, we're working in isolation. Times are tough, but times are tough for everybody. So if you develop a victim mentality of this is only happening to me, it's not healthy. It's not ideal. So take 10 minutes and see if it helps turn a negative experience into a positive opportunity. My favorite one's the top one here. These are two that I watch all the time. Top one's Jocko, which is good, and it talks about exactly that, turning a negative experience or something negative into a positive opportunity and being proactive with it. If you want me to come back, I will. If you've enjoyed this talk, I will come back and do workshops, do everything else. It's up to you. You are accountable more than anything else for your education. And this is essentially the point that we'll do Q&A if you don't mind. And then, but I want to know, what do you want to get out of the session? I can't make you listen. I don't want to. But hopefully you should go into every session, lesson, conversation, and find a professional development point. Find something that you can take away from that experience and go, cool, I've done talks different places. I've engaged in different talks and in German and Japanese and anything else. There's always something, regardless of the topic, regardless of the subject, there's always something you can take away and be inspired for and go, oh, that's pretty cool. I'm going to try that. That could be teaching practice. It could be whatever. But don't see things as a waste of time. Okay. Now, I think I've talked to you guys enough. Is that okay for you, Nick? Do you want me to expand upon anything else, or is that enough for me just to shut up and let you guys
No,
go?
I think that's fantastic, Jonathan. I think you hit some really key points there that are so relevant to our students at the moment. The networking, of course, and the lack of motivation, which is hitting a lot of students during COVID.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's affecting all of us. It's not just affecting the students, it's affecting teachers as well. So fantastic stuff. So yeah, we are going to hit a Q&A, guys. So as per some of the messages that have been quick firing out there, make sure that you're using the link that's been provided in the chat. And Jonathan, I'm going to do my best to read some of these questions to you.
I'll try my best to answer them if I can.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, thank you so much. Invaluable stuff there.
Thank you.
Okay, so the first question that we've got is from one of our students, a first year FE student called Kibi. Do you use the traditional paper and pencil for storyboards, or do you generally tend to use computer software and do it digitally?
Very good question. I would say probably the majority of the time I work on Storyboard Pro. I'm not sponsored by them, so you can use Photoshop or anything else. But what I try and do is, as much as possible, when I get stuff in, because of the quick turnaround, I usually just jump straight into Storyboard Pro and sketch off. However, depending on the situation, so there's sometimes that when we're allowed to meet up in person, or if I had a chat, I would actually have a piece of paper or something with me. I'd sketch out. So if I had the director next to me, we would probably sketch together and start thinking about if he or she had any shots that they wanted in in the storyboards, and then we work from there. So I'd say the majority of my time I kind of just work digitally, but there's occasions that I might sketch and draw by hand first, just to get the idea and get these thumbnails working. I'd say probably in the last 10 months I've been working a bit more digitally, just due to necessity than anything else.
Fantastic. I know that, yeah, absolutely. It's grabbing the opportunity as well. I know I've been on the bus before and I've suddenly had like a light bulb moment and pulled my notebook out of my bag and thought, oh, start sketching a few things. It can always go digital later, of course.
Definitely, yeah. Do you mind if I expand upon that point slightly?
Sure, yeah,
cool?
please do.
Another lesson I learned, it's nothing but lessons. Basically, all this presentation is my screw ups over the last number of years as a student and beyond. But hopefully you guys learn from it. But a big thing that I learned working as a student, working for people, was essentially, it's for animation, regardless of what position you're in, it's show not tell. So if you've got a character in mind, you have to sketch it and show them. Because we're working in the visual medium, then they're kind of expecting to see some animation, regardless if it's 2D, 3D, or if it's something else, visually based. Make something, make it happen. Even if it's not that good, I've told you before, I'm not the best character designer, but I'll sketch something down so that far better character designers will come off and hopefully be inspired or use that as a jumping off point. But yeah, I think a big thing is show not tell. And if you develop that rule, it makes life so much easier for you and others.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. So we've got a question now from one of the, I believe it's a second year university student, Joe Draghi. What do you think of the Unreal Engine and how it's being used in a lot of the TV shows and films at the moment?
I think it's fantastic. But I don't know if that's a bit more personal. So I work at Edinburgh Napier University. So I teach or I deliver 3D content, 3D modeling, and 3D animation. And I also do honors projects, basically like final year projects to help students with their animation. I say that because for the majority of students, I've tried to encourage them to use Unreal simply because, especially during the current climate, there's been so much more opportunities for technical artists and for studios using Unreal to cut down on rendering time and everything else. So I think it's fantastic. And on a personal level, I started looking a bit more of using Unreal into different stuff. But I've also recommended it to students. At CTN, not this year, but last year, my mentor, a gentleman called Fraser McLean, he worked on Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and he wrote the book on setting the scene. It's about layout animation. I can give him his details to Nick so that you guys can look him up or even contact him. Why the hell not? Lovely chap. He went over to California, and I think he went with Sony, and they were talking about, or they did a demonstration. They were trying to do a lot more or experiment a lot more of pre-production, but in 3D, so that you use like Blender, grease pencil. So instead of trying to draw something in 2D to then make it in 3D animation, what can we do to make just draw in the 3D environment from day one, and that way, and then take it in modeling. So there's been a lot. I think I'm quite excited by a lot of prospects that's gone into it, and if you look up for both yourself and your lecturers, if you look up Unreal Engine, once again, not sponsored by Unreal, Unreal's got mega grants. So if you don't know what a mega grant is, Google Unreal mega grant, and it can be used for industry and it can be used for education. And it's basically money. So if you use Unreal Engine for a project or an idea, then you can get free money to make it happen.
Fantastic, guys. Make sure you've made a mental note of that, or at least you've noted it down in your jotter, whatever. Thanks, Jonathan. So
okay.
another one from Joe. What film or show got you inspired, or I guess what film or TV show most inspired you over the years?
Cool. Without being difficult, it's probably, if you ask my favorite film, hands down, always has been Transformers, the animated movie in 1986. If you haven't watched it, that's homework. If you don't mind me, Nick, just jump in there. Homework, go and watch Transformers, the original Transformers movie in 1986, 2D animation with Nelson Shin as the director, Peter Cullen as Optimus Prime. I love it. I'm quite happy to say I've got 4 or 5 copies of the DVD downstairs, the 10-year anniversary, the 20-year anniversary, the 30-year anniversary. I waited 3 years to get Peter Cullen's autograph, so I sent off a DVD cover, and 3 years later I got it back with his signature on it. Yeah, I love it. I find that I have very fond memories of watching Transformers in the 80s, as well as Thundercats, He-Man, all the good cartoons that came out in the 80s and even the early 90s, such as Starcom, Visionaries, and so on and so forth. So I'm a big cartoon freak when it comes to like the stuff that I grew up with. So that, I'd say Transformers was the spark or the catalyst, and I've never grown up. And I just keep watching cartoons. I still watch anime. I watch a bunch of things. I try and be inspired by whatever comes up. So I think that's cool. And I think it's of particular interest looking at different countries that have produced their own visual style, such as Cartoon Saloon. They're based in Republic of Ireland. The names just jumped off my head now. It's a tiny little town, Kilkenny. That's it. They're based in Kilkenny. They have their own visual style that's very Celtic, very Irish, and it is. They did Song of the Sea. They did Secret of the Kells. They've done another one which is Wolf Walkers. So yeah, like hopefully that answers the question about me going off on a mad rant. But yeah, Transformers definitely is one that inspired, but I'm influenced by animation of the 80s, 90s, and even modern day.
Some absolute classics there. I sometimes think I'm a bit sad for sort of pulling up YouTube and trying to show my kids, trying to get them interested in these old sort of intros to things like Thundercats and Ulysses. I don't know if you remember that one.
Oh, definitely, man,
yeah. But yeah, some brilliant stuff from back then. Okay, so now we've got a question from Sam Cleo. So I'm currently in my first year of uni and struggling to figure out the direction I want to take within VFX. Did you ask the tutors what your strong points were, or did it take you until you were in the industry to figure out what you were best at? So in brackets before you mentioned the storyboard comment. I'm sorry if that doesn't make sense, but
Oh
yeah.
no, cool, I get that. Yeah. So no, I think to be completely honest, I didn't use my time at university as well as I should. Looking back in it, it's not to say I wasn't a good student. I don't think so, but we'll see. Yeah, what I did is I adopted very much the same mentality I did at high school, which is if you're a good boy, or you go off, you get good grades, you do as you're told, bum 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 bum, and I did what I was told to do, and that's it. And when I finished uni, I went, damn it, what do I do now? Because there was no one left to tell me what to do. So I wasn't really self-evaluating, and I didn't take a bit more accountability for my own education. So that's why I'm telling you guys, do everything that I did wrong but better. So I basically did the long way around, which is I struggled after uni trying to get a job, 6 months trying to get a job, trying everything I possibly could. My first job after uni, or of necessity, because my dad said get a job, was I worked in prison as a prison teacher teaching animation because I just wanted to teach I just wanted to do something with animation, and it was a job post that said we look for summer prison teachers. You can teach anything. I did the pitch, I did the interview, and I said I want to do animation. I was so desperate to do animation, I figured out how to try and get animation to any job that I did, one way or another. I'm not saying that's what you do. I'm just telling you that's what happened to me. What I should have done was I should have nagged and annoyed my lecturer as much as possible and just asked them for feedback. So you could, I should really ask Nikki before or Jackie before I do this. I encourage my students, and I'm sure they would do the same. You can ask for feedback every single session if you want to, every single day, if you want to, because you know this will make basically feedback will make you better, and it's from there that hopefully someone will give a comment or something that'll make you think and go, cool, I'm really good at that. So to answer the question directly, I did the long way around, and I only found out the hard lessons the hard way. And when I was kind of trying to get into industry, and just by chance, I had to go to California to go and get the feedback I needed to make a difference for myself and in my career in the UK. But you know, my hope would be that if you're unsure, I think the best thing to think about, especially being a student or a graduate, at this stage in your first and second year, you're allowed to say, I don't know. You can have a notion, you can have an idea, um, but my pushback to that, especially when you get into your third and fourth year, is well, you've kind of made a choice. You've picked a degree, you've hopefully gone to complete it, so you've kind of lent one way or another towards digital media, animation, whatever the case may be. So you've lent there a little bit. You just need to lean a little bit harder and pick your path. Um, Best way to get that, look up different jobs, or look up companies that you like to work for, and look at the job postings, look at the junior positions, and think, okay, what are they asking for? What do they do? Does that sound good to me? And don't be afraid to say, actually, that's not really what I want to do. So my perception of what I wanted to changed several times before I found where I am now. But yeah, look at different job postings, look at different studios, look at companies you'd like to work with in 5, 10 years time or wherever. And yeah, hopefully that helps. I don't know if I'm just ranting and raving now.
No,
So
not at all. It's invaluable. I think that kind of almost answers the next question, which is from Sam Purser, who's one of our first year uni students. What do you recommend for first year uni students in regards to starting to be professional? As myself, currently I don't have much work to show.
cool. Can I ask? Can you clarify? Is that student in first year, second year, third year?
So Sam's actually a first year university student. It's his
First year.
first year. Yeah.
First year. Cool. And forgive my ignorance, but you can just inform me because I'm not entirely sure of the entire process. To get into the course, do they have to show a portfolio or a show reel or something to get in, or can they get in with the grades alone from uni or something from school?
Well, we have a lot of progressors come from FE.
Cool.
So we're familiar with those, but absolutely when they come into HE, of course, it helps if they can show examples of work, and of course,
Yeah.
good
So
grades.
yeah, so the point I'm trying to make, and hopefully I'm actually making it, but in short, if you got into uni, then you had to show something to get into work. So that's a starting point and nothing else.
Yeah.
And if you guys started in like September, is that roughly the time, or
I think it's October, yeah,
October for you
about
guys?
that.
So you've had a good few months at doing something. So I think, how are we doing for time? Can I share my screen one more time? Is that possible, or
Yeah,
we're short for
absolutely. Please do, yeah.
time? Let's see if I can get this one. So if it works, it's basically this scrambled mess of something that I showed my my third years, because it does have a point, but if I can, I'd like to try and focus on this bit here. And it's basically making a portfolio. And the biggest things or biggest challenge I find as a lecturer or trying to encourage people is getting the work together. So regardless if you're in first year, second year, third year, you are doing work at uni, but it's also being proud of it as much as possible. And I've done something for Nick, I've done something for Jackie, I've done something for John. So in short, if I can, I'd like to answer that student's question with just a couple of notions, and I will clean this up for any later presentations if it helps. We're just doing I just did this in my third year. So in short, if you want to get a portfolio, you can open up a folder on your desktop and just drag and stuff in. So you might find that upon reflecting on the work you've got in there that you see as your best work, there might be a couple things that are character design, a couple things that are 2D. So I've done this before with students from like art college, and they say they want to be a 3D animator, and then when they show me their portfolio, show me the work, they've got more 2D work. And I say that's fine, but do you really want to do 3D, or is actually 2D your thing? You don't know until someone actually sits down and evaluates it and looks at it and says, oh, there's gaps. But if I'd far prefer to encourage you guys to have 4 or 5 pieces of work, especially in your first year, of good quality work that from there you can see the gaps in your work. I want to be a character animator, or I want to be a visual effects artist. Awesome. Have you got any examples of visual effects? No, not yet. Cool. Well, that's a gap in your work. Go off and you can now start working towards that, even in your personal time, or work with your lecturers to give you some ideas and notions. But you're probably not going to know until you see it sat out there in front of you. But if you're going to do this, then be honest with yourself and do it properly, such as put something in. Don't say, I don't like any of the stuff. Sorry, guys, once again, bullshit to that. It's not fair on you and it's not fair on your lectures. And, if it's 1 year worth of work or 3 years worth of work at uni, you have done something to get into uni. You have done something to stay in uni, and hopefully you'll do something to graduate and move on from uni. There's something there, put it in. There is uni work and there's personal work. I sometimes give my students saying, I gave you a piece of uni work in their first year, and then in the third year, I give them the brief of, cool, take that and enhance it. Make it a piece of personal work, because hopefully from the time that you first did it for a piece of uni work to personal work, there's been more experience and more growth, and that's what you're going to show. If not, that's on you. You have to have a think about what you're going to do to make that happen. What I encourage my students to do is an MOT or service of their portfolio. It sounds weird and wonderful, but why not think of your portfolios like servicing a car? In the UK, we've got to do, like MOTs, we've got to do service every 6 months and all that chat, blah, blah, blah. But why not adopt a similar mentality to your portfolio? Ideally, as a professional, you're kind of updating your portfolio every 6 months, or you should be. I'm going to put my hand up there and say I don't do that as often as I should. But if the work's coming in, then it is what it is. As a student and graduate, you're looking for your first opportunity. And especially if you're starting in first year, you could adopt a very good practice of saying, right, every 3 to 6 months, preferably 3 months, I'm going to update, I'm going to put something in that folder I'm happy with, my best work. Look at quality. And if you're into is it Mari Kudo? It's the Japanese person that helps arrange stuff. My wife's into it. It's you pick up something and say, does it bring joy? And if it doesn't bring joy, then you chuck it out. Say you can adopt a very similar mentality for your portfolio. Does it bring joy? Does it spark joy? No, chuck it. That's it. Nice. So I'm very sorry to give you guys a very long-winded answer, but it's to try and help illustrate that it's, for your portfolio and to answer that question, there's plenty of stuff you could put in. You just have to rethink it and be proud of your stuff, and also think, okay, this is only going to be for X amount of time, because in 3 months' time, you're going to update it. with more stuff, make it better, because some stuff's got a best before date. The stuff that you do potentially at FE to get into uni, you know, you should try and aim to get better than that in 2 years, 3 years, whatever the case may be. If not, then why not? That's your time at uni. As I mentioned before, you should be enhancing and advancing yourself as an artist, trying something. Try something that doesn't work. Fine, that gives you an answer. I wasn't good at that. Cool. Well, I get better, or I'll try something else. And also be aware that you need a show reel or a portfolio. It depends on what you're wanting to do. So apologies, Nick. I'll stop sharing and shut up for a second. But yeah, it's just to help get into a good mindset. The best thing to do, start making a portfolio like today. If you're in year one, perfect. Do it now. If you're year 2 or 3, it doesn't mean that it's you're a lost cause or anything like that. But you still have a couple months of uni left before you graduate, before you go into next year. Go into overdrive and ask for as much feedback and as much things as possible. So it's still all to play for before you graduate and move on.
Fantastic. Complete accountability, I think, isn't it? Get out there, get it, reciprocate and give back, really put the work in. So we've got a question now from Georgia, and I believe it's Georgia from our FE classes. Do you know of any good scholarships to look out for or to recommend?
I don't know on the top of my head. Unfortunately, that's my own ignorance more than anything else. It's once again, being in Scotland, we have a different kind of funding system, so I'm not fully aware of the different scholarships that might be available. But that's on me and not on you guys. If I would encourage you guys to, if you're into 3D animation or 3D character animation, and you're looking for maybe additional training while you're at university or even beyond, you could look at animadojo.com. We are actually looking to update the website in the next couple of months so that the service will be updated. It'll be far more presentable to you guys. And from that, we've got videos. Once again, I don't want to do a whole selling point in here to, to take the person away, but yeah, there's different training options that you can do that can actually enhance your college and university studies while you're still studying, or even when you're finished. I love it. Fair enough, I'm an education consultant. But I watch all the videos because I'm still an animator at the end of the day. So I'm still going to find out if there's like someone else's way of how they animate, or how they work, and go, oh, that's cool, that's inspiring, and move on from there. So yeah, unfortunately, nothing about scholarships, but I would say that maybe look at other training opportunities while you're at uni or beyond. Could be quite nice. But yeah, sorry.
That's okay. No, I think a lot of it's a good point to be raised, and I think my answer to that would be to just get out there and just keep looking, keep knocking on doors. There is stuff out there, but you really got to put yourself out there and find it. Louise. So Louise has asked, I have my mind set on a specific dream to work for a private independent studio in LA. However, I'm unsure who or where to send my work to put myself out there. In the meantime, what would you recommend?
LinkedIn.
Hands
down. Like, I do it myself. If I want to speak to a company, regardless if it's in Japan, California, down the road, wherever, LinkedIn's becoming far more powerful. As originally when I started doing it, it was seen as a professional kind of Facebook. Now it can be tremendously powerful to get yourself attention, get yourself out there. It'd be worth maybe doing a bit of research, or even reaching out to someone from that company. Most companies have like maybe a talent scout, talent coordinator, something with talent. So even if you do a quick little search on LinkedIn, it'll come up, or HR person, and just reach out, ask them a question, and say that you're really into a particular job, you really want to work for them, and you're looking to kind of develop a portfolio in the next couple of years. What do they recommend? Some studios like it to be on ArtStation, some like it in Behance. So why not be a bit cheeky, reach out, ask the questions, and say, well, what do you want? What do you need? How do I get into there? What's now to lose? 5 minutes to send an email or a message, and hopefully they'll get back to you. As long as you're professional and polite in your emails, say hello, tell them about yourself, get to the point, because essentially working in a studio, time is money. So when they look at portfolios, a lot of studios will only send, it's a 10-second rule. Look at a portfolio for 10 seconds. If it's good, keep watching. If not, switch it off. harsh but true, because you get hundreds, if not thousands, of portfolios or show reels that come in. So same with emails, you get thousands, if not more than that, coming. So keep them short, to the point, yet polite and professional. Who are you? What do you want? And why are you contacting them? And get on from there. So yeah, I've personally, I use LinkedIn quite a lot to reach out to people and say, look, I really like to work with you guys. What do you want? What do you need? And what format would you like to see that in? Why not? Put it back to you.
Fantastic. Great stuff. Okay, so we've got a really good one here. Have you ever experienced a creative burnout? And what do you think helps with motivation and avoiding creative burnout?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a very sensitive topic, but very important one. I've been very fortunate that so far, touch wood and that, I haven't completely burnt myself out. I have been fatigued. And the good thing about it, for me personally, is essentially my wife being a doctor. Which I understand not everyone can have their partners be GPs and doctors, but yeah, she keeps very good care of me. And I think it's to have a good support mechanism in place, be it your friends, family, co-workers, somebody that can just keep an eye on someone. So I'm very conscious of that, especially with a good friend of mine. He unfortunately, had a breakdown because he went burnt out and then pushed beyond that. And of course, I don't want to see that with anybody, regardless. So yeah, I think on a personal, I'm very aware of both myself and watching out for colleagues. So I think good thing is just to be aware of how you're feeling. Um, Time management's a big thing. I understand when you're a student and you're a graduate, you essentially want to please your lecturers, get a good grade. You want to, if you get an internship, you want to please and so forth. But what I found, particularly in the last 10 months, a lot of people have been far more understanding. Sorry, that's my baby waking up. Far more understanding of people working from home and being a bit more aware of people's mental health. So that's been one great thing that's come out of this whole scenario, is that people are being far more aware of one another and even checking in. So I'd say that be good to yourself. Keep an eye on your colleagues and friends, and hopefully your friends and family will keep an eye on you as well. If you're not too sure or concerned about it, please once again speak up. During this time, speak to. I don't know what the mechanism in place at your university is, but I know that at Napier we have program leaders that you can speak to, and you can just raise any concerns or issues you want, and we have a mental health team, which I'm sure your university has as well. And yeah, just don't suffer in silence. Have a good chat. That'll be a good one. Time management is a big thing, but yeah, good support mechanism I found in place. I've come close a couple of times, but what's knocked me out is the family. There's times that I just get locked in. So there's some times that I just don't eat or drink because I'm focused on my task. But having kids and having, a family at home, they pull me out of any good days, bad days, or anything that's happening. So that, it helps that mindset and that switch in my head to go, storyboard artist or artist, dad. Hopefully that helps. I don't know if it's just me ranting and raving again, but yeah, that's why I help.
No, that's fantastic. Thank you. I think that zone you get into when you're working, where you just don't want to leave the screen, it's such an easy trap to fall into.
Yeah.
So we got a question here from I believe it's one of our third-year university students, Philip Day. I'm a bit of an 80s throwback. Did you ever get to play the Dragon's Lair game with Don Bluth animation? And would you like to see similar games / projects in future blending that kind of animation?
Yes, and a very good question. I actually put some funding into the Dragon's Lair film that's coming out sometime soon. So I don't.
Wow.
It's the one time. I don't know if it probably won't work that well. Maybe I can try and get. I'll get there. Basically, I've got a cell from Don Bluth, so I've got two cells. One's Gengar, one's a cell. The first one is from The Land Before Time. It's one of the sketches that was Ducky and her family wake up crack out with their eggs. And another one is The Secret of Nim, that has basically two characters embracing each other. I got them because I supported the Dragon's Lair development, which I think started off being. I think they were going to try and do another game, and now it's turned into a feature. It was going to be an animated feature, but I think now Ryan Reynolds is attached. So it's actually
Wow.
It's quite funny that yeah, that question. In short, I'm not saying I'm connected, of course, but I have put a bit of support into trying to develop that off or anything else. So yeah, I'm hopeful for Dragon's Lair. I think the game itself was pretty quirky, pretty cool. I think if I had to be blunt, it was maybe limited by the technology of the time that could be better, but with nowadays stuff. So I'd like to see a callback to that because it had a good story. It was very narrative driven, and there's always a danger of some games just being, let's make something shiny blow up or whatever the case may be. So yeah, I think yeah, I'd like to kind of see some more stuff. But yeah, I'll let you know if I hear anything else about it. So I have spoke to Gary Oldman, who's one of the producers with Dawn Bliss. So
Crikey.
yeah, I'm hopeful to see what goes on. We'll see. But yeah, also have a chance if you get a chance, look at Dawn Bliss Studios in Ireland and what it did to the Irish animation industry. That, as well as a couple of studios, just essentially helped form the animation industry in the 70s. And even when they folded and went away, it's had a massive ripple effect on there that has developed and shown what can happen in Ireland. So if you get a chance, look at the Irish animation industry and sector and how its growth and development and history from that. Sorry.
No, that's fantastic. That's really one thing to look out for. Please keep us posted on that. It sounds really exciting.
Yeah, we'll see.
So another really good question. So what non-creative transferable skills would you recommend you carry over into the industry?
I'm just trying to think. I'll try and pinpoint it as much as possible. So a lot of non-creative. Oh, that's probably a good question without me just trying to bore you to tears. I I found my mindset and everything changed dramatically and for the better when I started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And the reason for that is my coach that's based in Glasgow is very, very nice, but very blunt. And his big thing is accountability. And the big thing is that, if you get tapped, it's your bad day, but someone else's good day. And just because you got tapped doesn't mean that, someone did something wrong. It's on you. So I think a big thing, the big takeaway that I found from that, which is a hard lesson to take, it took me 10 years of training to get to that kind of that point and to kind of be a bit more accepting of that. But it helped me grow as a person, and everything in my life just changed when I adapted a bit more of a accountability. It's on me to change it. If someone tapped me out, cool. I've got to put the work in to be better. If I apply for sober jobs and I didn't get it, cool, that's on me. I need to show more in my portfolio, or my portfolio needs to be better, or I need to present myself better. I'll ask for feedback and move on. So yeah, probably the biggest thing I learned is that accountability that I've kind of echoed through this presentation and talk, but that's the big one. So if you ignore it, the danger is that it's a hard lesson to learn later on. That if you start kind of going, right, okay, it's on me, you can be helped, you can be assisted, and it doesn't mean that you can't ask for support and help from colleagues, friends, lecturers, or whatever. But it's up to you to do the vast majority of the work to make that happen. And that mindset change will be a biggie, I found personally, and I hope someone else would experience that as something similar.
Excellent. Thank you, Jonathan. I think we've got time for about 4 more questions, guys.
Excellent.
Here's a good one. Do you have a preference for animation style? So traditional 2D, stop motion. I know you mentioned that you work in predominantly 2D, but have you got a preference?
Yeah, I think once again, being that 80s guy and growing up watching all these cartoons, I still have a soft spot for 2D animation, kind of traditional skills, because these traditional skills are still transferable into 3D and everything else. It's funny that I'd say my primary skills focus towards 2D animation, but I primarily teach my secondary skills, which is 3D and other stuff, which is quite quirky. If you ask my students that have only seen me doing 3D animation and modeling, they go, "Oh, that's John's primary skill." It's like, no, it's my secondary skill. But that's why it's important to have a primary skill. What are you really good at, and what else are you good at to make you, essentially employable and be able to fit into any studio in there. So, yeah, I think I really like traditional 2D stuff. I'm aware of the cost, the time implications of it, so I fully embrace the need and want for it to be uh, have a digital or remote kind of pipeline. When you look at Sergio's movie Klaus that came up on Netflix. It's beautiful. It's got some aspects of 3D in terms of the shade and the lighting. So it's almost like a hybrid of 2D and 3D in there, even though it's principally 2D, but they still use some techniques that you'd normally associate with 3D in terms of the light and the shade and the contrast and texture and how they were accomplished in new technologies. So that's quirky and cool, but it's still heavily based and heavily linked to a foundation of traditional 2D animation, just sprinkled in with some 3D. And don't get me wrong, there are some things I'd far prefer to animate in 3D than 2D. So like knights, lots of gears and clockwork stuff. It's a hell lot easier to animate that on 3D, put a cell shade on in comparison to try and draw it all by hand and everything else. Still beautiful, might it may be, but yeah, I'm still say if I had to pick a team, I'm still 2D for now. But I still embrace 3D games engine and everything else just to enhance that storytelling aspect.
Fantastic. You know, I want to kind of add to this next question actually. So, do you have any recommendations for online portfolios? How would you ensure your portfolio looks professional and best communicates your personal and professional interests? And also, what I want to add to that as well is you mentioned earlier that you sometimes use a physical portfolio.
Yeah.
We've had other guests in the past say that they get this. People love physical things. So I wonder if that's something that you can maybe kind of talk about.
I'll try. I've actually got my portfolio.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, of course. I've actually got my portfolio there. It's covered in dust, so apologies. But yeah, I think it's because, so technically speaking, I've got 3 different degrees. So my first degree is in graphic design. I did my master's in multimedia and computer animation, and then I did my teaching degree. And I'm currently doing my PhD by publication. The reason for that is that I've got time to do it. So I just, a PhD studentship or PhD ship would normally take 3 years full time. I just don't have that time with all the different stuff going on. So I have 10 years of year publication. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. I say that because my first degrees in graphic design, so it's very much having a physical portfolio, and I just kind of kept that mentality going on. So for animation, if it's animation you want to do, a show reel is important. Keep it, say, 60 seconds. I'd encourage you to have 40 seconds of quality if that's the case, then 2 minutes of just blandness. As we talked about, it's a 10-second reel. You've got 10 seconds essentially to impress and keep someone watching, or they're going to switch off and find someone else. So have your show reel, put it up on either Vimeo or YouTube. It's up to yourself. Try and stay clear of like Facebook or kind of social media. That's my personal account, but I'm sure if you spoke to someone else, they'll say that's great. But keep it on Vimeo, YouTube, and if you're going to email a company, put your show reel at the bottom. Don't wait for them to ask. Almost, don't push it down the throat or anything like that. But see every communication as an opportunity to say, hey, this is me. Here's my LinkedIn page. Here's my show reel. So if they're curious about you, they can go and find you by clicking that link. Oh, right, I'm good. What I've enjoyed is I send a show reel, and when I was allowed to go and visit studios and go and meet someone in person, I personally have my portfolio that's different from my show reel and my online portfolio. And the reason for that is they've already seen my online portfolio.
Yeah,
why would
course.
why would I have a printed version of that going, that's cool, I can check my phone, or I can just do whatever.
Yeah.
So I personally take the opportunity to have a physical portfolio to extend and to impart more life drawing or some other stuff. And I find people are far more enthusiastic about having a physical portfolio that comes in old school with a little handle, and they open it and go, cool. So a lot of the chats and conversations and interviews I've had have been hijacked with that portfolio coming out and slamming on the table. They go, oh, cool, let's look at that. They can see it. It's something they can feel. Well, everything else is digital. So it's quite nice. I think big things for yourself, guys. If you pick the danger of talking about portfolios and show reels and talking it too generically or too generally, it doesn't help the individual or help anything too specific. You have to figure out, okay, what job or career would you like to follow down? Because each of them will have very specific requirements or recommendations. That might be on a portfolio on Behance or a portfolio on X, Y, or Z. You also have to make sure that the studio that you want to apply for will like that to be. I think a big one I've seen is ArtStation. A lot of people are using ArtStation, and if you use ArtStation or Behance, then they've got a lot. The layout is practically done for you. You just kind of drop that stuff in. You give a little extended sentence about the brief. So if someone's curious and goes, "That's a lovely piece of artwork, tell me more." Make it an extended sentence, not a paragraph, not 2 paragraphs, not a novel, not anything else. If you leave it blank, it comes across very just, you know, well, shallow. Unfortunately, where's it coming from? What's the idea? Is there more of a concept to it? This is your chance to present it as a personal piece, a uni piece, to help sell the world, or this is actually something bigger that's part of a TV series pitch, or whatever the case may be. So maybe ArtStation, maybe put an extended sentence about each photograph or each image you've got in there. If it's for animation or particle systems, make sure it's something moving. It's show, not tell. So show us what your animation is if you want to be an animator. Show us your character design if you want to be a character designer. Use LinkedIn. Update your stuff as much as possible. And while you're a student, call yourself a student. That's nothing wrong with that. But tell people, or tell whoever you're speaking to what you want to do. I'm John. I'm a animation student at, I don't know, Napier, but I'm really into being to be a storyboard artist and 2D animator. Awesome, great, cool. We move on. When you're a graduate, okay, that doesn't tell me anything. So when you graduate, move on. Say that you're in. Tell us what you want to do. Think of yourself as a little business card. On the business card, you've got your name, your job title, contact information. Same if you put your hand out to have a handshake when we're allowed to. And you go, cool, my name's John. I'm inspired, like I'm a junior storyboard artist, or if you say you're a graduate, that doesn't help. Make it nice and easy for someone to figure out. And when it comes to show reels and portfolios and stuff, get them out early. Okay? If you wait when you wait for everybody to apply for jobs at the same time, what happens? Overload. If you guys I'll ask you guys a question. You can answer it for me, or Nick, you can.
I'll try.
It's cool, man. Right. Would you go and see a movie without a trailer?
I personally would, but I'm an absolute sucker for trailers. I am.
Yes. Cool. Let me rephrase it. Do you think the Snyder Cut of the Justice League has been far more helpful and far more profitable with the numerous trailers that have been popped out every month, every 2 months, whatever the case may be? The new ones that have dropped, I think it's the last 24 or 40 hours, have character focus towards the Flash and everything else. Some people are saying the poster sells the film for me. Cool. You're adding to my point. Regardless if it's a trailer or a poster or anything else, you're not randomly going to walk into a cinema or pick up. We don't have Blockbuster anymore, and pick up a DVD without something to show you.
Sure.
Sometimes it's just a name, maybe. Once again, but the point is that how many of these films that are well marketed, as in they've got this stuff out there, how many of them actually go on to be successful? Probably quite a lot, but you never know. There's always going to be exceptions to the rule. If you try and think of yourself as a film, get that trailer out, which is your portfolio or show reel, early on, so it gathers up interest. But it's up to you guys. If you don't want to take it, it's on you. But me personally,
Absolutely.
I'd far prefer to make a trailer, which is going to be your show reel, get some interest drawn up for you as soon as possible. If not, then you, as students coming out, are all competing for the same summer blockbuster. The difference is that those that have made trailers or presented themselves better have essentially got their own marketing scheme going, and you haven't. Now you're trying to play catch up.
Fantastic.
But up to you guys.
Yeah, that's great. And you nearly opened a whole other can of worms there with the Snyder Cut, but yeah, that's for another day.
Yes, of course.
Jonathan, I think that's about all we've got time for now. So yeah, we want to thank you for sharing all those valuable insights with us. Guys, soak this up. This experience and this networking opportunity with Jonathan has been invaluable. And Jonathan, I've spoken about coming back to do some workshops and so forth. We would love that, and we will be approaching you students for an interest in that as well. So thanks again, Jonathan, for all your time, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me. And I'd love the opportunity to speak to you guys again, but only if you want to.
Fantastic. I'm sure we do. But hopefully we'll see you soon, Jonathan. Take care.
Perfect, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.